Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto falls in love with Dejah Thoris? Episode 2, subscribe if you enjoyed the video, let's start the story. I was wrong when they were still looking at me with this odd expression on their faces. Honestly, this quiet is making me a bit uncomfortable, so I decided to flat out tell them something that I had a feeling would make them laugh. Look, if you don't like the answer, then don't ask the question. I am being honest, and this boat got so quiet, I can practically hear Woola breathing. This made both of them begin to laugh, and at least the situation can go back to something more normal, or as normal as they can be. You have to understand, daughter Sahit, it is not an answer we were expecting. I probably figured you to be in your late 20s. I don't know about the princess, but I think she figured you were the same age I did, or pretty close. I looked at her, and did my best old man impression. Oh, it's always the same with you youngsters. No respect for your elders. I tell you, in my age, we respected those that live this long. Youth these days with no respect. This again made them laugh, and I got to say I prefer it when they are all smiling and laughing. For a second there I thought you were really old. Well, since you were being honest, how did you live being married? I looked at Solas, and began shaking my head, and realizing she was actually rather young by the way she asked me that she probably thinks my marriage was something close to heaven. In reality, it is never that way. Well, let me tell you, it was not always loving, and kisses if that is what you are thinking. We did love each other quite a bit, but that doesn't mean we had our own opinion on things, and sometimes those opinions were different from each other. We argued, we fought, and we even screamed at each other, but in the end we had one rule: never go to bed angry. It was more than marital reasons, it was also about survival. She laughed, as I told her this, and Dejah just kept silent for some odd reason. The river was crystal clear, and, as we traveled we saw a few flags and banners on the river edge. It was not a flag from the Tharks, and it didn't take me long to realize this flag is from another horde. I decided to be proactive, and told Solas to set the rowboat to the shore, and wait for me for at least 2 days. If I didn't return, she and Dejah would be free to go their separate ways. Woola, I need you to stay here, and keep them safe. I know that I can count on you. Don't worry my friend, I am perfectly safe, and will return. My pet rubbed against my leg, and I began to pat him on his head. It was clear Woola was very worried. As I went further into the territory of the horde, I began to see the remains of other people, giving me the impression that this horde was particularly brutal. As I went further I saw rather large city walls, and realized this was much better kept, and bigger than the ruins the Tharks called home. The gate was guarded by half a dozen more armed and aggressive than any Thark. I decided that time was of the essence, and decided to forego scouting, and go for the speedy frontal assault. I simply didn't have time to waste with Woola, and Solas worried about me. I think I would be happier if I didn't make it back at all for some reason. Then again, she probably still thinks what I can do is something her troops can learn, so I might not be correct. I went towards the gate, as fast as I could, and demanded to be allowed to meet with their Jedak. Of course, the response was something I would have expected. They told me to leave, or they would make something equivalent to a fishing line with my guts. I, of course, did not take this as a threat, it was more of an insult. So since they would not open their doors, I decided to walk a few dozen yards away, and without even caring picked up the biggest boulder I could pull out of the ground. These idiots need to be taught some manners, but no matter, I will take care of that, as soon as I deal with their Jedak, and they are under my command. I will beat some sense and military discipline into their empty skulls. The look on the guards' faces was priceless, as I got ready to toss the boulder through the gate. One of the idiot guards actually stood in front of the gate, and I think he was the idiot that dared to threaten me. He must think he can catch the boulder like it is nothing. I put as much strength in my arm as I could, and tossed that boulder hard enough to make the same sound that came from a cannonball flying. I hit the fool, and sure enough, it went through the gate, and crushed the idiot that tried to block my boulder. I walked over to the remaining guard, and I glared at him, as I saw the frightened look on his face. I don't have time for your foolishness. You tell that cowardly good-for-nothing Jedak of yours that I daughter Sahit challenges him for the right to rule. Well, move it, deliver my message, or I am killing you next, and getting someone else to do it, and I mean now. The idiot looked like all the fires of hell were after him. He took off that fast, and I began to slowly follow him. Might as well take some time to get to see more of the territory that soon will be mine. An extremely old female of their horde was trying to pull out a rather big bucket from a well. I could not simply walk by and ignore that. I walked over to her, and with one arm I pulled her away from the well, and with the other, I pulled up the large bucket like it was nothing. So where are you taking this thing to? She looked at me with a rather strange smile on her face, and told me to follow her. As we walked she began to look at me, and I could practically feel a question coming my way. Why did you have to kill that guard? I told her that I had to because he was rude. As I placed the large bucket on the place she pointed, she took hold of my arm, and for some reason, she was giving me the impression that she was not letting go till she decided to let my arm go. He was not being rude, he was warning you out of mercy. In fact, the one that was rude was not my grandson, but you. He warned you out of the kindness of his heart, something he never did before because he feared for your safety, and instead, you threw a large rock at him, destroyed the gate he was guarding, and ended up getting him crushed. The Jedak has been sending scouts to find a worthy challenge for months. He should be here any moment now, and the fact that you killed his son, you will get your wish. You will fight the Jedak, and may end up wishing you listened to the warnings of my grandson. She touched the large stone. Sit down, you will need your strength when you meet my son. I sat down, and she began telling me about their city, their customs, and even their traditions. She mixed some rather strange colored dirt into a glass of water, and gave it to me, and took one for herself. It was actually very tasty. So the outsider decides to first kill my eldest son, and then insult my honor. We need look for him, he is having a drink with my mother. So I take it, mother, you taught this rude invader the traditions of the horde he invaded. She put down her cup, and nodded her head at the large guy that was glaring at me. It was all a misunderstanding, he is rather a friendly fellow. For some odd reason he seems eager to unite all the hordes under his rule. I haven't been able to see the reason, even with the tea of memory sharing. It must be a truly important thing for his mind to guard such a secret so tightly. Son stops glaring at him. When he only granted your wish, you wanted a worthy challenge, well here he is. Take him to the door of testing, and see if he is what I think, the worthy challenger you wish the goddess for. He looked at me like I was a bug, and I looked at him like he was a hornless freak of nature. I mean most of his kind have 2 horns on their faces, but this guy had no horns at all. It was almost like they were broken clean off. As we managed to push through the crowds we got to a large stone gate, and it looked like it was made from at least a dozen gates of different sizes. You want to rule this sword, then to earn the right of challenge you must open this. Open all these gates, and enter the arena, and you earn the right to challenge my rule. Fail, and you, and your horde will die. So go ahead outsider, let's see how many of these gates can you open before you give up, and die. He began to laugh until I decided to put as much strength into my 2 arms as I had done with the boulder, and began to push the large gate, and little by little the gates began to open. First 5 gates, then another 5, until all 12 segments of the gate was open, and I held the gate open with 1 arm, as I turned around, and I found dozens of their horde looking at me with their mouths hanging open. Well, I don't have all day, let's go. As we walked into the arena we were presented with a pair of large mallets. I was ready to take both of them for myself, and beat their leader into a paste, but the old lady once again told me we each got a single weapon. She tossed them both into the air, and, as they fell I caught mine before he caught his. I smacked his mallet so hard it broke into pieces. I then proceeded to begin to try my best to beat him into a paste like I planned, but the idiot may be large, but he was not slow one bit. He kept avoiding my attacks, and if anything this was making me angrier, as he avoided my attacks, and after what seems to be hours he finally collapsed on the ground. She took something off her son's arm, an armlet, and she placed it on my right arm. She then said some weird words I could not understand, and the armlet began to change size, until it felt like the thing was attaching itself to the bones of my arm. With the passing of the artifact, we welcome, and are ready to follow the lead of our new Jedak. All raise your voice, and praise your new Jedak, daughter Sahit. What is the wish for your new horde my Jedak? I looked at her, and I remembered she actually shared some of my memories thanks to that weird tea. The part you did not realize is this, Zidanga is a danger to all the hordes of our people. I am going to each of the other hordes, and becoming their Jedak to unite the hordes, to prepare for our battle against that roaming red man city. You're the strongest of the hordes, but you need to learn how to fight, and work, as an army. That is my goal for this sword, you shall learn what it means to be a true warrior. I looked at her, and began touching the hand that was still touching the armlet that still had some of my blood covering it. I trust that you shall teach them what you learned from seeing my memories. I must leave to challenge the other hordes, and once I am Jedak of all the green hordes, we will make ready to begin our attacks on the predator city Zidanga. She stood in front of me, and gave a salute any soldier would be proud of. I got to say that convinced me. As I walked through the streets I could see that my military background was going to help me a great deal with this particular horde. As I walked out of the gate I got a completely different feeling than when I arrived. People instead of telling me to run for my life, were telling me that they would follow my instructions, and that they would be ready for the call to arms. As I walked back to the river edge I was expecting Solis and Dejah to be a little concerned for my safety. Solis was staring at my arm with a little bit of a scared look on her face, and the one that welcomed me by running towards me was Woola of all things. Apparently, my pet was actually really happy that I made it back alive. Solis looked at my arm, and began shaking her head. Daughter Sahit, you were supposed to scout them. In less than 3 days you are the Jedak of one of the most brutal hordes that exist. I think this will make matters difficult with the other hordes. Believe it or not, the other 2 are quite peaceful. One is made up of builders, and the other is actually farmers. So you might have a little challenge if they see that because they will be quite scared of you. I had to look at her, and began to shake my head. Honestly Solis, if they are peaceful, as you say, then you too can come with me, and that would help make them feel less threatened unless of course, Dejah here starts to swing a blade around. You think I am dangerous? Give this lady a sword, and watch out, she is even better at using that blade than I am. As we got on the boat we began to go towards the next flag, and it looked like it was resting on the side of a large ridge. I am guessing these are the builders. So how are you going to get up there? I looked at Dejah, and simply told her I jumped well. I bent down my legs, and with a single jump, I was already on top of the ridge, and was getting quite the glare from solas it seems. As I began to walk on the ridge I realized I was wrong. The people that built the ridge were actually people that used it as a form of irrigation, and I realized it was quite an ingenious form of irrigation. I began to walk alongside the ducks, and there were several large ones. As I walked I saw more and more green. This was truly something that I could see they were quite proud of. As I walked towards where the ducks were headed I saw many little dirt huts, and I could even remember they sort of reminded me of the village hidden in the sand. My good friend Gara was the leader of it, and indeed they were very good in their water management. It is something my friend always took time telling me about. I even managed to learn quite a few things about it, which made irrigation easier when I built my little community with my friends. As I walked to the community center I looked for the biggest member of the horde. Excuse me, I am here to challenge your Jedak for the right to rule. Would you please tell me who must I speak with to do that? He looked at my arm, and began shaking his head. I see you are the Jedak of that horde, but sorry to tell you we decided leadership is a little different from your horde. I am the current Jedak of this place, and we determine who is our Jedak more along with wisdom rather than brute strength. What is your name? I looked at him, and did a traditional Thark gesture of greetings. I am called Dejah Thoris, I am a Tharks. I challenge this current horde I lead because I am trying to unite all the hordes into one. You might not realize this, but we are in severe danger from the predator city of Zidanga. I believe that the hordes will need to unite in order to survive the coming turmoil that will come our way. He began to nod his head. Yes, we are aware of Zidanga and their conflict with Helium, but we had no idea that someone else has the foresight to realize that our people are next to be attacked. Very impressive young Tharks, very impressive indeed. Like I said I am the Jedak of this horde, and we decide who is our ruler based on intellect. So tell me Dejah Thoris, are you ready to hear our trial? I did not want to wait too long. Wula at least I know would be worried about me. Yes, I am ready to face your trial. I, however, must say I am very impressed with your ductwork, but if you don't mind I think I have a few ideas that could make them even better if you are willing to listen. He told me to follow him into a community meeting building, and told me he would be delighted to hear any ideas that made farming easier on his horde. He even decided it would be a great trial to see if I was worthy enough to lead them. It turns out that they took my words, and made them the actual challenge. I was to improve irrigation and cultivation of their farmlands, but would only gain their loyalty if they were sufficiently impressed with what I had done. Only the wisest among them could be the leader of their tribe, and thus I needed to stop at nothing, but do something that the current Jedak of their tribe couldn't even imagine doing. But the thing I had an advantage of experience, to some I may look young, but they can only say that because they don't know they are talking with the man who had a hand in the creation of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The first I needed to do is take a make, and after I sent 3 shadow clones, I had a complete working map of the entire irrigation and duct system. It was impressive, however I saw several ways it could be compromised by nature and by people, so I first chose to deal with that. The second was filtration of wastewater. Sewers would need to be constructed, but once these were built in every home and barracks, they would essentially be used as a means to produce high-grade fertilizer, and even manage to recover some of the water used by the people that would otherwise go to waste. The sewage would be sent to draining ponds, and use the natural heat of the planet to cause metal filters to purify and collect water. The purified water and dried fertilizer would be mixed with other waste products that come from various production activities would be available to all farmers. It took Naruto less than 3 days to actually finish modifying the already existing duct and irrigation system to make it something that was as close as to something that could be called indoor plumbing. This would not only promote food production, but also health improvements, and by the end of his explanation, and seeing the early effects of the changed system, the current Jedak could not help but to be amazed at what he was seeing. People could take a bath in the privacy of their home, private latrines, and urinals, and the way the waste was handled created little in the way of waste. He walked over to him, and took off something from his arm, and handed it to Naruto. Young man, I have to admit that I had my doubts that you could achieve what is necessary to become my successor, and take the position of leader of this tribe. I must confess that seeing that bracelet on your arm, made me think you were just another brute, but you didn't only exceed my expectations, but did something that can only be considered a wonder. As I returned to Dejah and Sola, I swear my dog is the only one that seems to be happy to see me. At least that was what it seemed thanks to the way his tail was wagging. Only one tribe left, and they are going to be the most difficult. They are the ones that have the most advanced weapons and ships in the entire planet. Brute force is simply not going to do a thing. Solas of course was right, so I had to fight fire with fire, meaning I had to use my intellect. Granted, the world where I came from was not exactly on the cusp of technological development, but let's face it, after thousands of years, I had more than enough time to learn, experiment, and invent. This should prove to be little to no problem at all. My little community was thriving when we had so few people, and yet no other city around wondered why that is. As we finally made it to the gates of the last settlement we would visit, I swear I felt like I was walking through the gates of Konoha all over again. The city was massive, pristine, and made almost entirely of metal and glass, building high enough that people would think could touch the very skies above. Well, that would be impressive to many people. As I walked in, I was immediately hammered by another memory, as the guard, much like the two I always met coming back from a mission, just asked me the same word: name, occupation, and purpose. I am not kidding, this is the only thing these two guards said to me when they first met me. Never mind that I am followed by a beast, flanked by what I think they know are pretty much two princesses, who both could in fact beat their skulls in if they pissed them off. Maybe that is why they are keeping their introduction so short, trying to avoid that. Seeing they're such great conversationalists, I decided to return the favor by telling them Naruto, Jedak of two tribes, was here to challenge their Jedak for the right to rule their tribe. At this moment I honestly thought that civility and common courtesy would be dropped, and they would try to at least kill me. That is when I would be proven wrong. One of the guards simply made a note on what I think is a list of visitors, and the other looked at us, and simply said, "Very well, please follow me. I shall guide you to where you can meet with our Jedak. Please keep your pet under control. We don't need our people getting hurt by accidents." Unlike the previously supposed cities that I visited, and that includes the one that pretty much adopted me, having more of a rural feel to it, this place is urban. There's no other way to say this. This is an actual city. Flying vehicles makes deliveries, and mass transit for citizens, shops, and people going on about their days, families buying things, and a mother and her child buying groceries while haggling the price of what I think is fish. This one place hit me so hard about Konoha, that I wouldn't be shocked if I turned at one of the street corners, and walked down a few feet. I would find a Martian version of Ichiraku with a Martian Tucci asking me if I was there for my usual. I went through what essentially was the same sort of building like a modern version of the Hokage Tower, which includes glares from the Green Martian Secretary for good measure. This place is making me think of my home village so much it was both a little touching and annoying at the same time. The man who still was seated behind this massive ornate desk and chair simply told us to sit in seats in front of it. "I see you made it. We heard from another tribe that you might come to try and obtain the right to rule our tribe. We have also been keeping an eye on you. Thanks to the hidden flying observation equipment, you seem to be making unheard of speeds to get here, as fast as you did." He looked at his desk, and he then looked at me, and smiled. "However, in your haste to get here you didn't manage to eat or rest, and it would be unfair if we have you undergo the ritual to challenge my rule. So instead we are going to provide you with a place where you and your mates can sleep for the day. Ask for anything you want to eat, and tomorrow, once you are fully rested and well fed, then I can tell you how our tribe determines who is the best to rule." I for one was having a hard time dealing with something this person said. She just called the two women that were near me my mates. Dejah was considered property under the laws of the tribe that adopted me, and I am the adopted brother of Solas, so this makes me worried that this might upset them. And Dejah is not one to be tender about how she deals with people that anger her, if my impression of her is correct. You might not know this, but all Martians, as you would call us, yes I know you call our world Mars, are essentially shapeshifters, Solas, and any other Martial can take the form of their mates, should they choose to. Only two Martian races never do that. One is the Red Martians, and the other is the White Martians. The Yellow Martians are xenophobic to the point that they avoid everyone. So you should know that your mates can in fact choose a form much like your own. The only reason we can even speculate that the red ones never did that is that they never made it with any of the other Martian races, high and mighty as they are. And the white ones are so aggressive, how would any one other Martian race even have a chance to form a romantic relationship if their first greeting is them trying to kill anyone who isn't a white Martian? He looked at me, and the two people near me, one who looked horrified by what she just heard, and much to my surprise, it wasn't Dejah that looked like she heard something that fundamentally challenged her entire view of reality. Before we go into the differences between tribal customs, how about you three join me, and have dinner with me, and my family? I don't honestly know about you, but I am rather hungry. As the man said that he guided us to what the man called his humble home, to me this place had nothing humble about it. It was a small mansion. As we stepped into the home I could see the level of detail, and could feel the strength of the foundation of the home with every single step. The place was sturdy to stand against explosions, and it was decorated to the point it could be called a work of art, and first and foremost, it gave a warm and welcoming feeling to those that stepped inside. The fact is this house was big enough to fit entire families, and that included several generations of them. As they walked into the dining room I saw a lady, 2 girls, and 3 boys welcoming the man who invited us in. They were happy to see him, and asked him who his guests were. The man quickly told his wife that I was a potential challenger, and I would undergo their tribe's right to rule, but for now, he had invited me, and my 2 mates to come, and stay with him, and his family for at least a night, since they had traveled quite a long way. The lady was quiet, as she and her daughters went to the kitchen to take the bowls of food, but even I can tell they have been working hard to make this meal, so it was a simple decision to simply walk with them to the kitchen. Without saying a word, picked up the heaviest bowl, and brought it back to the dining room. I set it on the table after I asked where to place it. Their daughters were quiet, and she clearly was shocked to see me be able to do something like this. To me, this thing was practically weightless. As she and her daughters finished serving everyone their food, and we all began to eat, I placed a bowl near my chair with some of my food for my pet, which she happily ate. She looked at the two women who she was told were my mates, regardless of how many times I tried to explain that is not the case. You rule 2 tribes already, why do you want to become ruler of our tribe? I want to know what your goal is. Why are you doing this? If you become the Jeddak of this tribe too, you will be responsible for every member of this tribe, so why do all this? I guess no matter what planet I end up on, a mother will always worry about the safety and future of her kids, and a wife will worry for the life of her husband. This, it seems, is a universal truth. My goal is simple: unite all the tribes of this world, end conflict, achieve lasting peace, and save this world. I have lived for thousands of years, and even to this day, I have not stopped trying to create lasting peace. So you don't have anything to worry about. I am no danger to you, your husband, or your children, but thank you for this delicious food. I didn't think that something that was made with mostly plants would taste this great. She laughed and said that I don't look any older than her eldest son, which ironically was seated right in front of me. I have lived thousands of years. How many? I can't honestly tell you. I stopped counting after 7,000. I was once trained to be a ninja, and, as a ninja, I can tell you appearances can be deceptive. As the meal continued, it seems that the entire purpose of the meal was somehow to learn as much of me as possible, and since I had nothing to hide or be afraid of, I answered every single question she, her daughters, and even 2 of her sons asked me. Some I think they asked thinking I would not know the answer, and fall flat on my face, but tragically for them, I knew the answers to their questions, and in such detail that they began to question their own understanding of the things they asked me about. One of the kids asked me about some of my most fun memories. I could tell them stories of when I had actually caught a beast, and given it to my wife covered in this strange mixture of herbs and spices, and told her that she should boil it in water, and she did, as I asked, but without telling me that this thing would either taste bad or that I was insane. I told them stories about how it was to live before writing was established, when history and stories had to be told from one person to an entire group of people. I told them stories of sailing the ocean, and wishing that we collected enough rain because the stuff our ship was going through would kill us if we drank it. I've been through many things. Some were wonderful, some unreal and shocking, and some absolutely horrible. My wish for my life is that one day true peace can be achieved, that people will learn to communicate and resolve their issues without having to fight, and that by doing my best to achieve that I made lives of other people a million times better than how I grew up. That is when their mother asked what did I mean by that. I told them that my childhood was anything but easy. It was dealing with a lot of things that I had little to no control over. I was born an orphan. My parents died on the day I was born, but through many struggles and many challenges, I eventually made a home for myself. I had a wife and 2 kids, so trust me. If you ever have a dream, I told the children who were sitting there eating this delicious food, that, as long as they hold to their dreams, do their best, they can become true if they believe it. As the dinner came to an end, I thanked them for both providing me with a place to sleep and a delicious meal, something that had actually improved my understanding of food preparation on the planet. This, however, brought up the last question, which was what did I mean? It sounded like I was comparing their planet with another, which I always do. I told them how I came to be in their world, and to them, it sounded like a fantastic adventure, a tale they could only think of as fantasy, guns, love, war, epic battles, personal struggles, and a twist ending that was only the beginning to another story. The kids who were listening to this after dinner were eating it up more than they did the meal they just finished. If anything, when their parents told them it was time for them to go to bed, that is when they complained that they wanted to hear more of the story, it reminded me a lot of how kids act. The thing is, this is something I never got to do in my own childhood, and this was only making me miss my vixen Angie more and more. Thanks for sharing so much of your life story, Naruto, and even I can tell you didn't want to make my kids feel bad, so you told us a version that they could listen to. I appreciate it. You know how parents worry for their kids, since you were one once yourself. As for the challenge to rule for our tribe, it is not that bad. You have to prove that you are the wisest, smartest, most creative person, so basically you have to make an invention that will improve the lives of everyone, and one that no one has made before, no pressure. His wife smiled at me, and looked at her husband. I know, much like our kids, I want to listen to more of those stories of your past, so, as for where you will live, why not live here with us? You can then take as much time as you want to create that new amazing invention. As for my husband, he created a fleet of flying orbs that record anything interesting that is happening. So you gotta beat that. That is how we knew where you were, what you have done, and how long it would take you to reach our tribe. Essentially, she just told me that everything I have ever done was already known to them because they got dozens if not hundreds of things flying so high in the sky that they are practically invisible to everyone, recording everything that I had ever done on Mars. Yes, that is going to be a major hurdle if I needed to invent something equal to that. And secondly, unlike my son Boruto and my daughter Himawari, I spent most of my life as a warrior. What could I possibly invent that wasn't a weapon or could be used in war? For now, I need to go to sleep. I am really tired, and so must be Solus and Dejah. If I am being quite honest, I asked them where was my room, to which the couple was quite happy to show us the rooms. We each got a room, and I, of course, did the smart thing, and asked which one of the rooms could be locked from the inside, and nobody could break into it. They laughed, and said all of them were like assassinations. Attempts of the Jedak are quite common after all. Yet another thing that was common with the elemental nations. This made me remember what Gar used to tell me about his childhood, and boy did I feel like my childhood was a dream by comparison to his. As we each went to our rooms, we wished each other good night as we entered the rooms. The bed was huge, and the only question is, why is there a mirror on the ceiling? As I finally closed my eyes, and sleep finally came, I found myself in an empty void that once was my mindscape. I guess I came here since all that happened recently reminded me of all the people who were long gone. But, as I said this, the two pieces that were on my body began to glow in eerie golden light. And after this happened, reality itself seemed to be forming cracks, until I saw a hand punch right through what I think was a wall made of complete darkness. What I saw next had me speechless. It was Auntie Kurama, but how she, and everyone I know have been or should be dead for thousands of years. Nothing makes any sense. As she saw me, the first thing she did was run towards me in a red flash, and before I could ask anything, she was passionately kissing me on my lips. There, Naruto finally broke you free from that genjutsu you've been under for the last 2 months. Relax, Naruto, your memories have been messed with. You have been through a lot by the looks of your memories, but you don't need to worry about it. You are not alone, Naruto. I simply can't seem to accept what I was told by the person who I would least expect this from. Auntie Kurama, what the hell is going on? I remember you, and everyone I ever knew died. I have been alone for thousands of years, and now this hallucination of one of my most precious people just kissed me, and told me that I had been under genjutsu the entire damn time, for thousands of years. How am I supposed to deal with this? She looked at me, and smiled, like the boy who I saw become a man, and later achieved his dream of doing something. People mock you for dreaming something they consider impossible for you to do. Wake up, Naruto, you are not in our dimension. You were sent to another dimension after the final battle against Kagaya. But the way she sent you was during battle. It caused you to be sent 6,000 years into the past of the universe where you are. She laughed, almost trying not to cry, as she looked at me. For you it had been over 6,000 years, and we had to wait for our time to synchronize before I could even attempt to find you like this. Naruto, it has only been 2 months since the final battle against Kagaya. I could sense your energy, but for some reason I couldn't get a precise location, which I only could do that now. I only had one question: why? Why the hell put me through this? Something that messed up my memories so much that I can't tell which memories are real, and which are fake. Cause I remember Hinata, and every single friend I had dying. I remember some of them grew old, and died before me, and thousands of years were learning. And training was my only refuge from the all-consuming depression that had become my life. Kurama saw that she needed to basically rip off the old bandage, and tell it to me straight. Naruto, Kagaya wanted to drown you in such despair and misery that it would break your mind, and you would essentially become her obedient puppet. She wanted to use you, as she used Madara, and so many others, but did so in a much worse manner, because she also wanted you to suffer to get revenge on you for daring to stand against her. She looked around in my mindscape, and like I said before, it was nothing but darkness everywhere. First, we need to do something about this place. I know the place where we first met was not exactly cozy. The pits and entrails of a power plant were not exactly what you call homey, but this place is downright depressing. So please change this place to something more cheerful, cause we got a ton of things to talk about, and I want to do that in a more comfortable surrounding. And no, I can't do it. It's your mind, so only you can do it. I guess this proved to me this really is Kurama. I have not gone insane, and this place is looking like this because of my thousands of years of living in a deep depression. So I began to imagine this place looking more like the forest I once made for Kurama. Trees, flowers, animals grazing, and a clear sky with a rainbow. Couldn't make it more kid-friendly even if I tried. Wait, 2 months, that is it. A little over 60 days. I have been living without you or any other ninja for over 6,000 years. Kurama, honestly, I had to repress my chakra, or people would have either called me a demon or killed me as a witch, burned me at the stake, drowned in a river, or crucified. Those were not fun at all. But then again, what method of execution would be? Kurama turned into her human form, which I haven't seen in quite a few thousand years. Yes, Naruto, in your dimension you have only been missing for 2 months, but at least you have enough experience to actually be a decent Hokage. Nobody is going to accuse you of being a rookie, now are they, after having all that life experience? The sad thing is that I can't even remain here. There is too little chakra in the planet or even the universe. What the hell happened to this stump that it is so depleted? This is worse than what the Akatsuki can do, and that is saying something. After I was free from the genjutsu, I had to go through the entire memories of my entire life, picking and repairing the ones that had been clearly modified, and restoring the ones that had been destroyed, using the fragments of the memory to remake them. So every one of my precious people is alive. What exactly happened to my team and my friends? Kurama simply looked at me, as she sat down near me trying to clean up my memories, making them more organized. Well, Hinata and the kids are doing alright. Boruto became a teacher at the academy. Himawari became his assistant teacher that teaches practical skills. Shikamaru's marriage was done, and over faster than you can polish off a bowl of ramen. Ino and her husband got into so many fights it was not even funny. A key part was that Sai wanted their kid to use his painting techniques, but Ino wanted him to learn her clan techniques. Sakura was finally happy when they got a divorce, and she told them at the final court meeting, why not use both? I decided to ask about my team since she brought up Sakura. Sakura and Sasuke had one daughter, as you should recall. But what you don't know is that they got a divorce. Both Sasuke and Sakura got into a fight when it came where the family would live. Sasuke told her that in the Sound Village, because it was the perfect place for him to run his information network. But Sakura said she would rather die than to live in the same village where Orochimaru was caged. Sasuke ended up getting married to your cousin Karen, and because of the training she had to go through, and the work she does with Sasuke, let's just say you wouldn't recognize her if you saw her. After all, she had 5 kids with Sasuke. Naruto begins to nod his head, and says yeah, I do remember that, and then pauses for a second, and says wait a minute, you said it's only been 2 months. But those events would have happened at least 20 years in the future. Both my kids with Hinata are not born yet. After all, it's only been 2 months, and that would mean that the Konoha 12 are still 17 years old. Kurama then said to Naruto that she was making sure that he had the memories of his past life hero, and it looks like he does. She laughed, as she mentioned that she just set that part to test his memory, and to try and get some of his memories to repair, by the sheer reaction to what she just said, which many of them in fact did. As much as he would like to hold it against her, he had to admit it was a very good prank, and, as a prankster, he knew that he had to give credit where it was due. As I said before, been living, pretending to have no chakra for over 60,000 years, got married a few times, had a few kids with them, but they all grew old, and died for some strange reason. My wives I understand, but it was always shocking that my bloodline never was passed down to my kids. And after a series of adventures, and quite a few bloody wars, I somehow ended up on the planet Mars of all things, just because I got teleported to Mars by pretty much repeating the last words of an asshole that tried to kill me. And pal, you saw my memories, no need to explain who the hell that traitor is. Kurama looked at me with this look, as if get on with it. I pretty much figured that I would be stuck on this planet for the rest of eternity, so I figured might as well stop the people that are trying to basically destroy this planet, restore it, and maybe I would have a good life here. I got adopted by an actual parent who cares about his kids. I say that pretty much tell me the people on this planet can be decent if we take care of the idiots with the sense of a sociopath high out of his gourd. Kurama told me that was a nice idea, and if we could somehow get more of the pieces that were stuck on my body, maybe then they could finally use his abilities in this dimension, allowing him to not only restore life to the planet they were on, but every planet in that dimension by infusing and giving chakra to all these planets, restoring that energy back to them. I told her that was a wonderful idea, but right now I need to figure out how to outsmart an engineering scientific genius or their equivalent in creating, inventing, or discovering something so outlandish and impressive that this tribe will make him their new ruler, and give him another piece of armor. They hold one of these pieces as a badge of their position as rulers. The only way for me to get them is to become the ruler of their tribe. Kurama asked why not simply sneak in the night, and when nobody was looking simply kill the leader, and steal the armor, to which my responses were that it would be dishonorable. It would make me no better than Danzo, and I hope the idea how to win will come to me in one of my dreams. Kurama told me that she was sure something will come to me, as my memories restore themselves while I sleep. The end. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.